Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole and it's by user Capable Emergency 5154. Am I the a-hole for not telling my boyfriend I own the building we live in? Hi, obviously this is a throwaway for privacy. I am also new to posting, so I hope I do this correctly. When I was 18, my dad gifted me a 2-story house. I am extremely thankful. We are not upper class, but my dad bought this house for a cheap price a long time ago. It was his grandmother's cousin's house. I know this was an extreme privilege and I will be forever grateful for it. The layout of this building is like an apartment, but it is a house. So basically, each story has its separate entry, its kitchen and bathroom. I live upstairs while I rent out the downstairs. My boyfriend, 25 male, moved in with me about 3 months ago, and we have been together for 6 months. I have not asked him for money, neither for utilities nor to pay me any rent. The only thing he contributes to is groceries, which we split 50-50. I have not brought up that I own the building, as it is not something I tell many people. If people ask me, I, of course, tell them that I own it, but if they just assume I'm a renter, then they can believe that. The topic of a landlord, the renter downstairs, or the owner of the building has not been something we have talked about. Now, this last Tuesday, the renter came up to tell me that her freezer had stopped working. I answered the door and my boyfriend heard us talking, I suppose. I went downstairs to take a look and we came to the conclusion that she would buy a new one, send me the receipt, and I would give her the money. She was very grateful for this solution. When I went back upstairs, my boyfriend asked if it could be fixed. I told him no, but she was going to buy a new one and I would pay for it. He looked at me like I was crazy and asked me why the hell I would pay for her freezer. I told him that because I was her landlord and the freezer was there when she started renting, I would stand for the cost of a new one. He just asked me if I was serious, to which I said I was. Then he began screaming at me, asking me why the hell I would hold this information from him and that I was an evil person. I said I was sorry for not telling him, but I did not think that it would matter. He said he could not believe that he was together with someone who is a landlord, that all of us just use people for money, and that the only thing people like me care about is money and would rather have people be homeless than offering affordable rent. Please note, the downstairs is 1 kitchen, 1 bath, and 4 other rooms. I charge $500 in rent. I understand many people have had trouble with landlords, but I try my best to be a good one. He demanded that I give him 50% of the money I make from rent, or else I was just as bad as he thought. Was I really the a-hole for not telling him? He has not talked to me since Tuesday, and I have tried telling him that I am truly sorry, but he doesn't answer me at all. No, OP, you are not the a-hole. I'm sorry to say, you just caught something that's called a financial leech, or most commonly known as a gold digger. These entities come in all different shapes, colors, sizes, and genders, so they're not easy to spot. But don't worry, there is a way to treat for these money-sucking parasites. All you need is a can of BS repellent and apply it every time they talk to you. Of course, this is in tandem with getting them out of your life, in either breaking up with them or throwing them out of your house. Now, OP, all the half jokes aside, this guy is one big walking red flag. He doesn't contribute anything to a house he moved in 3 months into the relationship except to pay 50% of the groceries, and he demands that you give him 50% of your income because you're a landlord or else you're just as bad as he thought? The nerve of this idiot. OP, throw him out as quickly as you can, and if he starts harassing you, collect all that to get a restraining order on his ass. Not the a-hole. And what is your judgment? What do you think about OP's situation, or what would you do? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Ling Jules says, let me get this straight. He must not have offered to pay half of the rent, because then it would have come up and you would have told him, right? He is living with you rent-free. Up to now, he thought you were paying the entire rent. On what planet does he deserve half of the tenant's rent money? Please reconsider this relationship, not the a-hole. And OP responds, no, he did not offer to pay for any of the rent. If he offered, I would have explained to him that I owned the building. In hindsight, I should have told him that it was my building that he would be living in with me, even if he did ask or not. I think that his outburst really showed how he was. I thought about breaking up with him, but also thought I was maybe overthinking it. If it comes to that, at least I learned something for future relationships. Check Intelligent 7828 says, not the a-hole. I'm a landlord. We rent at below market rate. We never raise anyone's rent, though we've lowered it a bit, lol. We allow multiple pets, fix everything more quickly than in our own home, and try really hard to be the landlords we wanted. Small 1 to 2 property landlords aren't causing rents to skyrocket. And for better or worse, no one's reappropriating rental units to hand out for free. This is the system we live in. All we can do is try to do a little good where we can. Your boyfriend is making a money grab. You've been letting him live there rent-free and he never questioned it. That's bizarre. Now he wants you to give him cash or you're evil? What happens when taxes are due? The place needs a new roof or pipe bursts. Does he want to sign an agreement that he's responsible for 50% of the costs? Since he took money you should be saving for things just like that? This guy has told you who he is. Believe him. Now be very careful evicting him. Like, talk to an attorney first so it's all legal. It doesn't matter how he sees you or what he calls you. Him refusing to leave is the danger. You need him gone. Why comment Queasy says, not the a-hole, dump him. I know that's a common response on this subreddit, but this dude was happy to exploit you for free lodging, and now that he finds out you've got income he wasn't aware of, he wants half of it just cuz, or else you're a big meanie? You don't owe him an apology, you owe him a kick in the rear. And OP responds, he sees it as both a way of me proving that I'm not renting as a way to grab money from people, so that if money is not what I care about, I should have no trouble giving him half, but also a way to prove to him that I am sorry for not telling him earlier that I own the building. Additional information from OP's comments. Before we moved in together, we would hang out maybe 1 or 2 times per week and text from time to time. We were not really close in these 3 months. Sure, we were in a relationship, but from the looks of it, it was more of a dating situation. It is hard to describe, maybe, but we were more like distant friends who had sex and went on dates. And before all of this happened, he did not act crazy, not like this at least. Then, a situation came up regarding his recent living situation with his last landlord, which was extremely bad. He was about to renew his lease, but the landlord was going to raise his rent a lot. And when he mentioned it, I said that if he felt comfortable, he could stay with me for as long as he wanted or needed. He instantly said yes, of course he did, and basically moved in the next day, except for some stuff he had at his old place for some days. So I guess some of that extreme reaction is because he has had bad experiences with landlords. As I said in another comment, the topic of him paying some of the rent or for anything really never came up. He was never really interested in knowing anything, never asked me for how long I have lived here, how much rent I paid, how the landlord was like, or any other question regarding my living situation. I know I probably should have said and clarified, hey, before you move in, I own the building I am living in, but stupid enough, I did not. I don't really know exactly how his brain works or processes things, but I wish I did. From what I know from these last 3 months of living with him, he very often blames other people for his misfortune and, at the same time, expects people to sacrifice things to make it better for him. Thinking back, it should have been obvious red flags, but it was not clear to me at the time. His employer did not want to give him a pay raise. He was told that it was mainly due to him sleeping in often, taking longer breaks than what they are generally allowed, and his work not being in line with where he should be with his experience. He got frustrated because he believed he should have this raised. Of course he did. then asked me if I thought it would be reasonable to ask them to cut his hours to 75% of work time, but with the same monthly pay still. The more I think about everything, the more confused I become with myself. It really does seem like my thumbs write things that really couldn't have happened, but crazy enough, it did. Guess there are people for everything. OP's in-comment update. I am currently at work. I don't live in the US, so I have different time zones. To those who have been supportive, thank you. After all your comments, I think this relationship needs to come to an end, but I will try to talk to him today or tomorrow and see what he says. Still, ending the relationship should not be that hard emotionally. Even though I have grown to like him, seeing and realizing what you all helped me see, the emotions you can gather in 6 months are easy to overcome. And about my house and my family. It has been on my dad's side of the family for a very long time. My grandmother's cousin did not have any kids and therefore asked my dad if he wanted to buy it or else she would sell it. My dad bought it for no more than $15,000, which is extremely cheap. It was a bit run down at the time, but we both worked on it to make it nicer. My dad works as an engineer and my mom works as a cleaner, so no, we are not upper class. We just happen to find ourselves in an extremely lucky situation. Alright, well, the community agreed that OP was not the a-hole and told OP that she should end this red flag of a relationship, to which OP has listened and she will be doing just that, but apparently for some reason, she wants to talk to him first to see what he thinks. So now it's time for us to move on to the update to see how that goes, but before that, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to click that like button, leave me a comment with your opinion on it, and of course, subscribe if you haven't done so yet. So now, let's continue with the update. Before I get on with the update, I just want to give some answers to frequently asked questions and some claims I have seen. Why on earth would I charge $500 in rent for a place with 5 rooms? I don't live in the US, and neither is this place in the city. It is a place about 1 hour drive from the nearest city, 15 minutes from the nearest store. We still have about 3,000 people who live here, but what we have is a preschool, 1 playground, a school for kids ages 6 to 9, and a church. The cost for other places with the same amount of rooms where I live is about $600 to $700. It can be a bit more if the place is newly renovated, has a nice view, a garage, etc, etc. Many factors play in. The building I own doesn't have a garage, it's not newly renovated except new floors and wallpapers in rooms that we changed. Also, other stuff that you need to change, like stoves, bathtubs, toilet, etc. But I don't see that as a full-on renovation. So even though the rent is below market rate, I still make enough from it to cover outstanding expenses regarding the house. This story is fake. You can bet I would have loved if this was something my mind had just come up with, but it is not. I have seen some people claiming it is fake for different reasons, being that if it were real, rent would be higher, but I already explained that. Another reason is that my boyfriend would not hate landlords and would not want to participate in getting money from the rent. Does everything everyone does always make sense? No. Did this make sense? Absolutely not. I can't tell you all why he would say that. I am not him. Now on to the update. I read as much as I possibly could, and after thinking about this and also about previous stuff I just brushed off, I decided I would break up with him. It may seem like an impulsive decision, but after everything, I felt the sooner the better it would be. I texted my dad and explained a bit of it all to him. I asked him if he would be willing to drive to my place and sit in the driveway when I was going to talk to my boyfriend, and he, without hesitation, said yes. Then I thought about what I would tell him and how I would lay it out. I was extremely nervous about how it would go, and not gonna lie, I was scared after all the people telling me I should be careful and that he may try to hurt me. When I got home, he was already there. I just greeted him and he, of course, said nothing. I texted my dad got here, and I sat down on the couch beside my boyfriend. He did not know my dad was here. I can't recall the exact details of the conversation as my mind tends to blank out in stressful situations, but I will try my best to recite it. I started by telling him that I thought we needed to have a talk with each other if this relationship was going to work. He asked me if I was ready to apologize, and I told him that I would apologize for not telling him that he lived in my building, something I have apologized for many times already. However, I will not apologize for not giving him a part of my income. He then said, "And why is that such a big deal to you? If you don't rent out for the purposes of taking people's money, you should have no problem giving any of that money away." I told him that I really try to understand how he thinks, that he may think I am in it for the money and think I'm a bad person for renting out the downstairs complex, yet he wanted money from it. Then I said, "Don't you understand that it seems like you are just in it for the money? I rent out the downstairs for $500. If you really believe all landlords are money grabbers and not good people, would you like me to donate half of it to charities specifically for housing?" Around here is where the calm and collected and fine conversation ended. My memory from all of this is still all around the place. The gist of it is him telling me I was crazy for even thinking he wanted anything to do with the money for selfish reasons. He then said that I should just trust what he says. Oh, please allow me to laugh my ass off on this one. He said he regretted ever meeting me and that he would make sure all my friends knew how I really was. He said that we were through. He threw my keys at me and he tried punching a hole in the wall, unsuccessfully. By this time, I had already texted my dad, who came in to see what he was doing. My boyfriend just laughed and told us both he never wanted to see us again and that he was out. I know this is extremely rushed, but it all just happened so fast and was incredibly stressful. It was much more said and much more done, but in all honesty, I don't really have the best recollection of everything. I tried to write out all the important stuff, and I, in a few days, have managed to take care of my emotions and calm myself down. The conversation I tried to recite seemed very cold and emotionless, but in reality, it was more emotions and other words. I just tried writing it out as best as I could. However, I am safe. He can't come in here because he threw his key at me, so he doesn't have it anymore. He is now my ex-boyfriend, and I will contact him sometime to ask when he will be able to pick up his stuff. I don't know where he is staying, nor do I really care. Well, OP, I'd say put all of his crap in a box, you put it outside in the sidewalk and send him a picture of it telling him to hurry up and pick it up. Good for you for ending that relationship and getting rid of that idiot, OP, the money-grabbing leech. Anyway, OP, here's wishing you the best in the future. Thank you for sharing and take care. And now, let's finish this video with a mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Petty Revenge and it's by user Deleted. I planted bamboo that overrun my neighbor's property over a security light. About 4 years ago, I used to live in a nice HOA in a small town in Texas and enjoyed having only one neighbor over my backyard fence. The plot was about 2 acres and the other side of the backyard butted up to a hayfield. The stars were beautiful at night because of virtually no light pollution. Until the neighbor decided to install an incredibly bright security light over their back porch aimed right at my back patio and bedroom windows. I tried to ignore it at first and put shades in the bedroom, but out on the patio, it was like having a bright LED headlight in your face at night. I consulted the HOA about adding a privacy addition to my fence to increase its height, and they said no because it's already at the 8 feet max allowed height. They said there was nothing in the bylaws or whatever about bright lights, so there was nothing they could do. So I hated for this to be the thing where we finally had a formal greeting after 3 years of back porch waves, but I walked over and rang the doorbell with $20. I politely explained how the light was causing the nuisance above and asked if there was any way I could convince him to point the light down or in a different direction. I even offered to buy him a case of beer, the $20, out of goodwill and even a new motion-sensing light. He seemed nice and agreed to point it down, but after waiting a month, nothing changed. I went back to have another polite conversation and he said he had changed his mind and was going to leave it on every night and leave it pointed as is. Needless to say, I was a bit upset diplomacy failed and started figuring out how to win. If the military taught me anything, there are always ways to adapt and overcome. So I started researching fast-growing plants to create big privacy walls and reading through the HOA bylaws and city and state ordinances about what I could or couldn't plant and if there were any repercussions for encroachment across the property line. I quickly discovered running bamboo, despite being very invasive, would grow super fast to make the neighbor's house and light disappear from view, and there was nothing on the HOA, state, city books to prevent me from planting it or cause legal recourse if it spread and grew on his side of the fence. The only thing he could do was cut anything that grew on his side of the line. So I pulled the trigger and planted a bunch of golden bamboos, which grows and spreads crazy fast in Texas and grows up to 20 feet tall. I didn't care if it took over the fence line because his house is 15 feet from the fence while mine was 50 yards away. So I planted a bunch right against the fence and only put a root barrier on my side to prevent it from spreading into my yard. Within 6 months, his house and light were gone from view, replaced by a pretty bamboo jungle row at the end of my yard. Within 1 year, he complained it was growing into his yard via mailed letters. They went right into the trash with no response. He rang my doorbell once and I looked at him through the window but just didn't answer the door. I unexpectedly sold the house and moved 2 years after planting for a career opportunity. It's been 2 years since I sold and I just checked the property on Google Earth and his entire backyard is bamboo. Well, OP, I think this is just a perfect mix of malicious compliance with petty revenge. You went the diplomatic way and he just went back on his word. So, you made him disappear. And what came after that? Well, he needs to control his yard, doesn't he? Thanks for sharing, OP. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So, here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.